Right after Agent Cooper left that day, Garland pulled me aside, and he said that one day our son Bobby and Hawk and Sheriff Truman, I didn't know it would be this Sheriff Truman, he said that they would come and ask me about Special Agent Dale Cooper. He squeezed my shoulders when he told me this. I tried to ask him what it was about, but he wouldn't say any more. He just said, when they come to ask you about Agent Cooper, you give them this.
You like the juice?
Do you like the juice? I liked half of this juice, and I didn't hate the other half, even though it was a little less pressing than the first bit of juice.
Yeah, this one defied our rule of watching them 2 episodes at a time, because the pattern has been the first episode is okay, second episode better. First episode okay, second episode better. This one, I got so much to talk about the first episode. I loved episode 9. Episode 10, like, episode 9 was good, episode 10 was, had a lot of Belushi in it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you know what, we've been talking about Belushi is like he should get here because he's the reason we're watching the show, but yeah, every time Belushi was on screen, I felt like I didn't have to care. So, I should say, welcome to episode 5 of this Twin Peaks with the Return experiment. You got that, George? It's episode 5.
Right, episode 5, so I won't...
So, later on, when you label this episode...
Episode 5, where we're talking about episode 5. I got it.
I just found out about this. He's editing the podcasts a few episodes behind. So, we recorded an episode that might be the weirdest fucking thing you've ever heard, and then we recorded another episode where we didn't mention anything about that, and now we're recording this episode.
And now Ben is all caught up on what I did to episode 3. But also, you haven't heard it yet?
I was so proud of myself. Because I sent it, like, I always, like, send the shit late, like, my side of it, because we record on Audacity. I'm like, oh, I gotta fucking send him a thing. I still haven't sent you the one from last week. I'm gonna send it out tonight. I was so proud of myself because I sent it, like, right on time. And, like, you gave you so much time to edit it. And then on your side, you're like, fuck it. Just jerking off and deleting it.
Oh, yeah, no. You gave me your half, with the perfect amount of time. I have that one. Your half is solid. It's my half that I accidentally deleted. So it's an experiment. But honestly, like, episodes 5 and 6, like, I don't think I really had a lot to say about the show or talk about the show until, like, now. Like, now shit's starting to pay off. Like, the first...
Yeah, I will say we got a lot more.
Yeah, up until now, like, most of our conversations have been like, what do you think, David Lynch? Why do you think he wanted to make this? Like, we just always get on that conversation. Like, why does this exist in the first place? But, like, episode 9 was, like, structured like an episode of television. I could follow it. It had setups and payoffs. Like, it actually felt like TV.
And I am going to promise from here on out to not talk as much about the crazy, like, the other theories and stuff I've been looking up online, and the person has... I'm done with that. We've talked enough about that. Though I will say, I think I've, through my process of going over that stuff, I've kind of devised my own method now, my own kind of rubric for analyzing this. I've come to the conclusion that I'm letting the simplest explanation work until it doesn't. So, like when you ask, like, what do we focus on, what do we don't focus on, if it seems like maybe it's a little, weird as far as, like, a performance or, like, a character, why are they there, I'm not going to immediately assume, oh, that's got to be a lodge entity. I'm just going to assume, like we talked about the 119 lady, and I was reading a theory online, like, oh, she's saying she's trying to get 911, but she's saying it backwards because she's high. And apparently Mark Frost confirmed that. Like, sometimes when you're high, you touch the Black Lodge and you talk backwards. So it's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. She's just fucking high. We saw that. So, like, that's how I'm going to approach this now. Like, the obvious supernatural shit is obvious. The subtle stuff, I'm going to assume it's just this weird Twin Peaks world until I know otherwise.
Or it's just something that just hasn't been paid off yet, you know? Because some shit's weird until you know where it's going. There's a couple shits... Oh, like in episode 9, they set up a mystery and, like, pay it off right away when they go to Major Briggs's wife. And when she's given that monologue, I'm like, oh, shit, I gotta pay attention to all this. This is code. But then later on, it's just, what's Jack Rabbit's Palace? What is that? Oh, it's the name of Bobby's thing. But... he could have stretched that out for like 4 episodes, and we could have kept questioning, like, what's Jack Rabbit's Palace? What's Jack Rabbit's Palace? It's the simple answer. It's just, it's part of the story. Just wait. Some shit will come around.
But I don't think it's our fault for not trusting David Lynch to pay off his bullshit, because his entire history of Twin Peaks is, I'm never going to pay off any of my bullshit. So the fact that he's doing it as much as he is here is kind of surprising, but ultimately rewarding, I think.
Yeah, because like Ike the Spike, we got closure to that. Ike the Spike gets captured in episode 9. What else happens? Evil Coop meets Tim Roth, and we are reintroduced to Jennifer Jason Leigh, who we haven't seen since like the first or second episode. He sends them off to kill Warden Murphy.
Oh, I don't even remember her from the early episode. I thought this was her first time.
No, he met her in that hotel room in like episode 2. And remember, and then he's like, "You're nice and wet." He like grabs him between her crotch.
Maybe I blocked that out. That's the one thing I want to talk about. We get to, and it was in this episode, episode 9, and I always hearken it back to the scene in one of the most harrowing scenes of anything I've ever seen in Fire Walk With Me, the actual like train car scene. Just how good David Lynch is at those kind of uncomfortable, violent sequences. Like we get with, I was just thinking like maybe I blocked that out because it was gross and I didn't want to see Cooper saying shit like that. But like we have the scene here with who we find out is Audrey's son assaulting his grandmother and stealing all her money, and it's just so hard to watch in a good way. But just he's so good at that.
Yeah, is that in this episode? No, I think that's in episode 10.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, no, that's right, because he's a lot of episode 10, that's right.
Yeah, that's in episode 10.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there. Maybe I'm just associating all the stuff I liked with episode 9 because I liked it better.
Yeah, no, some stuff happened in episode 10, but no, episode 9 had some good shit. What happens next?
I love the cops and the fact that they laugh so heartily at their own jokes, and we just stay on them laughing.
I did like that. I also like the dude that came in, like who took the coffee cup. His acting style was just kind of bizarre. Like he's like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna take the coffee cup now."
And yeah, I have 2 theories. My first theory, which I brought up to you, is I think the joke there of them laughing is it's a riff on like the David Caruso modern cop show where they're all quippy and shit. I think that's like, these are if regular cops watched shit like that and thought all their jokes were funny and, started making them. And I think that guy, my theory is, like, he's acting the way he thinks he should act in a David Lynch production, and David Lynch didn't stop him. Like, he's like, this is Twin Peaks, right? I should be all weird.
I don't know, man. I would love to be on the set of a David Lynch production and just kind of like witness how he directs actors. Because everybody kind of has the same style, and like everybody seems to be on the same page, even though like you can't possibly know what the fuck's going on sometimes.
Most of the time, I would imagine.
The cops do find out that Dougie Jones, or they're suspicious because Dougie Jones has no record of existing before 1997, so that must have been the year that Evil Coop, I guess Bob created him.
You know what? That brings up something. I don't know if we mentioned this on a previous podcast or not. You mentioned, you made the differentiation between Bob and Evil Coop. Because we've been talking about Mike and the little man from Another Place, the arm, as if they're separate entities. I didn't know this. Apparently the arm is Mike. In the original script,
I'm not 100% sure how it goes.
Well, in the original script, he is called Mike. In the original script for Fire Walk With Me, that's because the guy that we call Mike is Philip Michael Gerard. He's the host for Mike. I think when he cut his arm off, that was maybe the host taking control and cutting Mike out of him.
Oh, maybe.
And now they sort of work together in tandem?
Yeah, well, because it's either I think it's in Fire Walk with Me, there's a scene where, like, Michael J. Anderson grabs that guy's shoulder, and, like, so I guess they're, like, connected or something.
Well, they speak in unison. And I think,
yeah.
I don't even think we get when he says, I am the arm, I think that's from Fire Walk with Me. I don't think we got that in the show at all, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I gotta rewatch that, because I'm watching a lot of, like retrospectives on it. It's like, it's amazing how much of the mythology was revealed in that movie that, like, we didn't pay attention to because we were just pissed that it didn't give us the sequel we wanted.
I know. When I first watched Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, I fucking hated it. I hated it so much.
So did
because I wanted the Twin Peaks movie to be fucking Coop waking up in the fucking bed and seeing him eat Bob in the mirror. I wanted more of that. And I'm like, I know how Laura Palmer died, but the more I've watched Fire Walk with Me, the more I almost like that more than the original series.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, that we've talked about it obviously before, but that scene above the convenience store alone is like, it's up there with the original dream sequence in the second episode, as just sort of quintessential Twin Peaks.
Yeah, and it's like a movie that I can watch over and over again because I'm always, like, noticing new shit and being like, oh yeah, what's that? Wait, that does relate to this. Because the more you do watch stuff, I guess it's true with everything, not just David Lynch productions, but the more you watch something, the more you kind of piece everything together, because when someone's telling you a story for the first time, you don't know where it's ending, and now I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I'm remembering things from earlier. Well, everything's starting to connect up.
I'm trying to talk myself out of just going into, like, the deepest of deep dives, like rewatching the entire original series, and then rewatching the movie, and then watching all of David Lynch's other movies to figure out how Lost Highway somehow exists in the same universe, and maybe Robert Blake's weird ghost character is a figure from the Black Lodge somehow. I'm trying to stop myself from doing that. But this is exciting me enough that I want to.
Yeah, that would be something you would just have to create your own theory for. I don't think you're going to find the answers, but I think you're going to create a whole lot of new theories.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to wait until I think I will try to have, like, a grand unifying theory of Twin Peaks by the end of this. Obviously, I need to see the end before I get that.
Yeah, no, the last episode, we're going to have a lot of fucking questions, and yeah. The last episode raises a lot of fucking questions.
But yeah, but so far, I think it's answering a lot more than I ever expected it to already, and we're just halfway through it. Yeah,
it's like, well, also, like, Twin Peaks is, like, half, this mystery, half just regular soap opera. And, like, yeah, the stuff with, like, all the Jim Belushi stuff, all the trifle and stuff in the middle, it's all starting to, piece together and, like, make sense now. So at first it just seemed like weird random shit, and now it seems like, oh, no, it's just a story. I'm just watching a whole lot of multiple storylines. And, one of the problems with this show is it's episode 10 and there's too much shit going on. Like, there's no way I could pay attention to this week to week, And you need to kind of binge watch it like we are.
Well, and I don't know if we mentioned it or not yet that they wrote this as an 18-hour movie, and just cut it up into 18-hour chunks.
Yeah, but there's got to be a reason why David Lynch released it the way he did, or maybe Showtime did. But I think I don't think David Lynch would let them release it a different way that he didn't want to. He would probably have some kind of contract in his contract. But it was like 8 episodes and then a big long break, and then it was just week to week. Maybe he's just old school and he thinks TV works better that way, but this would have been a lot better if it was on Netflix and I could watch the whole thing whenever I wanted to.
I would assume it wasn't, while he wrote it that way, I don't think it was ever intended to be released that way, because I'm assuming they had a negotiation where, he suggested that and they were like, well, no, obviously we can't do that. We can't, it's a show, not an 18-hour movie. It's like the Snyder Cut is going to be 4 hours long, and it's like, I'm sure at some point, he wanted it to be 10 hours long, but HBO Max was like, no, it sucks, you can't do that.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. But like everything was still like in 2016, Netflix was streaming series all at once, right? Like releasing things. I guess maybe in 2016, like Showtime wasn't doing that, and I guess they don't do it now either.
Showtime still doesn't do that. Well, I mean, I guess does Showtime even have like a net like like HBO has HBO Max? Does Showtime have anything like that?
Yeah, they have. You can if you subscribe to Showtime, you can also get their streaming service.
Oh, see, I don't know. Because who fucking subscribes to Showtime? Honestly.
My fiance's parents do, and I log in under their account.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like old people that don't know any better. But yeah.
That's who does it, and that's how I watch Shameless. That's how I watch Twin Peaks when
it's also on Netflix.
Yeah. What else we got? Oh, okay, yeah. We are reintroduced to Johnny Horn. We get more of him in the episode 10. But this fucking Mrs. Briggs scene, I was like transfixed to this. Bobby Hawk and Sheriff Truman go see the Major's widow, and she gives this monologue of like, he told me one day all three of you would come and ask me about Agent Cooper. And he said, when they do, give them this. So I guess Major Briggs foresaw all of this happening, which kind of goes with my theory that the lodges kind of are on a different plane of existence where it's kind of the past, present, and future all at the same time.
Well, also, from what I remember of the original series, 'cause that was season 2 when he went I think he went to the White Lodge, didn't he?
I think he went in the black one.
Because I distinctly remember a scene. Well, I'm assuming my assumption is that, especially after episode 8, that the place that the giant is, who I guess is called the Fireman, we didn't say that, but yeah, that is the White Lodge, right?
Maybe.
Okay, at least for my
I don't know.
I'm assuming that's the White Lodge, because I know they established that he spoke to the giant. It was the famous scene where they ultimately, like I think right after that, they reveal the killer, where he walks to the bar and he walks with the giant. It's like, this friendly man, bring him here. Like that kinship was formed. So I'm pretty sure the implication is that when he went to one of the lodges, he didn't have an experience like Coop did in the waiting room of the Black Lodge. That's the other thing. It's not like heaven and hell where they're two separate places. You can go straight to the White Lodge if the fireman takes you there or brings you there. But normally you go through the Black Lodge to get to the White Lodge if you can get there. It's like that's the idea. It's not like one or the other. It's both.
Okay. Because, I think Briggs went to the Black Lodge because Wyndham Earle was trying to get to the Black Lodge, right?
Well, but no, but I don't think Wyndham Earle necessarily had control over that. I think, because we saw Briggs's head where the fireman lives. And I think that's the implication of where it went when we later talked to Matthew Lillard, and he's talking about, that we went to the zone. I think he's talking about, whatever. He probably doesn't know the distinction between the lodges, but they found a portal to the White Lodge somewhere.
Okay. I don't know how deep we can get into what the lodges are.
Well, but the reason I say that is because, I'm thinking of that first scene in this show where the fireman sat Cooper down and was basically just giving him all this exposition. Here's what you need to know to enact whatever the plan is ultimately going to be. Listen to these sounds. It is in our house now. Remember these numbers. I don't even fucking remember the numbers at this point. Richard and Linda, we talked about that. I'm wondering if Briggs had an experience like that. He found himself in the White Lodge, and the giant just said, hey, a couple years from now, you're going to be dead, but these people are going to come to your wife's house and talk to him. Tell her this.
That's possible, too. But then why is Mike, the one-armed man, guiding Coop from the Red Room?
Well, I think because his connection is not with the White Lodge, it is with the Black Lodge, because that's where he was for 25 years, and I suspect that's where he still is, in a sense. I think there's a time loopy thing going on here where I think he's always in the Black Lodge, even if he leaves, because you talk about past, present, future, the same thing. I think once you're in there, you basically never leave. You can go in and out and interact with the real world, but I think once you encounter that, just like Philip Jeffries, you're never the same again, and you're going to fucking wind up bouncing around everywhere. I think that's, kind of his fate at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. And I guess that's what we're getting with Major Briggs, because Gordon Cole. I keep writing down David Lynch in my notes when I mean to write Gordon Cole. It's so hard.
It's basically the same guy at this point.
I know, it's so hard for me to go, no, he's playing a character. Gordon Cole and Albert go to Buckhorn, and they find the body of Major Briggs. And again, we learn that Major Briggs was thought to have died in a fire when he was 40 years old, but the body has only been dead for like a couple days. And so if Major Briggs was still alive, he'd be in his 70s, but the body's still 40. So I got that right?
Yes. So my assumption there is he has been somewhere else where he didn't age for that long, recently came out of it, and died.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Also, yeah, we skipped over the Major Briggs' wife scene. So she gives Bobby and Sheriff Truman and Hawk this like little cylinder thing, and then Bobby, he's able to open it. I'm going to jump and just like go to that, finish this this plot, since it actually finishes in this episode. Bobby knows how to open it because it's something Major Briggs showed him when he was a kid. And then they find directions to Jack Rabbit's palace, and also the printout that Major Briggs showed Cooper that has his name on it.
Yeah, I remember that from the original show. Cooper. But I remember there were 3 Coopers. This one, there's only 2 Coopers, which is obviously just like a thematic connection to the fact that there's 2 Coopers. But there are 3 Coopers. There's Coop, Dougie, and Mr. C. I don't know why they didn't just have the 3 Coopers.
That's true. I guess maybe so Hawk could have that line where he's like 2 Coopers, and then we could be like, oh, there are 2 Coopers. And that's like just a hint of things to come. Hawk's going to be on the trail and know there's 2 Coopers.
But
I can't remember how this fucking show ends.
The thing about that scene, though, Bobby's like, yeah, I know how to open this. I throw it really hard on the ground.
I know.
Like, I was waiting for it to be like a trick or something.
Or he also said, like, we have to go outside to do this. So I was expecting, like, there was going to be some fireworks shooting out of that thing.
Or like a solar power or something. Yeah.
Yeah, there would be a reason he had to go outside. No, the reason is, like, he just had to throw it real hard against the concrete.
Well, is there something I missed there?
Chip the wood in the sheriff's department.
He does it twice, and the first time it's like a tuning fork, like it's like a resonance or something, and then he does it again, and then it's open.
Yeah, I think it's probably something with the pitch. Like, he slams it so hard, and then once he hears the right pitch, he, like, throws it again, and it opens up. I don't know.
I'm wondering if that's like a real thing that David Lynch knows about. Like that's like you could buy that in a novelty shop or something.
Oh, maybe. Well, my assumption was it was some like high-tech military thing that Major Briggs had at his disposal because he was in the military. Yeah, and then but when he was, when Bobby was a kid, he showed one to him and was like, "Here's how you open them,"
And I really
and that was
like
a sweet
that.
moment because Bobby got to bond with his dad from beyond the grave.
I hope they continue with that. I hope his story arc is him like learning to respect his father more through this weird thing that he planned all along.
Well, we got a lot of that too because his mom basically says like your dad always knew you'd be something because the Bobby in the original series was a huge fuck up. And yeah, I'm liking Bobby's arc. I'm also really fucking liking Dana Ashbrook. He's like an awesome actor.
And yeah, he's one where because I know he's worked. I've seen him in other stuff. I think he was on like a season of some other Showtime show, maybe. But no, yeah, there was a Crash TV show. I want to say at some point. I think he was on that.
Yeah, now he needs to be on like Criminal Minds or something. He'd be good as like
weird that he doesn't have a bigger career considering how good he is.
Yeah, he'd be good on like an NCIS show too. Like, yeah, build a fucking show around Dana Ashbrook that involves just like car chases and shit, and I'll watch it.
And I don't know what to think about. Is it who is the Horn brother? That I always forget his name. Is that
Jerry?
Jerry Horn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about his arc yet. I think, did you say that it pays off really well?
If I remember correctly, I remember liking Jerry Lost in the Woods high. I thought that was funny. And then if I remember correctly, there is a payoff to it. Like, it's not just random. Like, it leads somewhere.
Because right now we're watching him look at his foot, and his foot talks to him and says, "I am not your foot." Which, again, before I settled on the easiest explanation, which is that he's high, the Twin Peaks head in me wants to go, is that his doppelganger's foot talking to him? Is that the little man from another place? He's the arm. What if he's also the foot?
Is his foot possessed by Bob?
Because right now, like, literally the next scene, fucking the evil deputy guy's eating cream corn. He's eating fucking Garmin Bosia.
Yeah, that was weird. I didn't notice that. You pointed that out. But fucking Chad, he's eating his cream corn TV dinners in the conference room.
And is that just an indication that he's evil, or does that mean that he's connected to the big evil?
Yeah, I doubt he's connected to the big evil. I think maybe that's just like David Lynch saying, like, this guy's bad. If you didn't know already, Chad is not a cool dude.
So the implication is anybody that likes cream corn is evil.
Yeah. But yeah, he's got 2 TV dinners, and then Robert Forster tells him, like, don't eat in the conference room. And then Chad's like, all right, I'll leave, and he takes his fucking sweet-ass time. I love that. I've complained about slow-moving scenes in this show up to this point, but the amount of time it took Chad to get to the door and out of the conference room was hilarious.
You know, I thought I would have more of a problem with that kind of thing than I have. Even like the famous sweeping one, it had me laughing. And like this, and then the scene later on where, you know, David Lynch is out there smoking with Diane, or sorry, now I'm blanking on his character's name.
Gordon Cole.
You know, that scene where they just sort of stop and it's awkward. And then later on, you kind of find out more context to that, where they start to suspect her of things, and you know, so like even that stuff, I feel like is having payoffs, or is a payoff to something, even if it's awkward in the moment.
Yeah, again, you think it's random, but really that scene was about Gordon Cole sizing up Diane and you know, kind of sniffing her out, because he knows she's up to some shady shit, because fucking Diane gets a text from Evil Coop in this episode.
Which I did not realize that's what that was until they pointed it out at like that last beat. Like,
yeah, I think they pointed out in the 10th episode.
Well, because you say, like, even like, I didn't even put it together that they both got that, because I guess the guy from Mulholland Drive gets that text, and then she gets it, or no, she sends it. I can't remember. She sends
a text back. And right. It's like all coded messages. I can't remember Coop's text to her, but her text was, around the dinner table the conversation is lively. And then in the next episode, Albert brings that information to Gordon Cole because they got a tap on her phone. So, but even they know that Diane is not on the level.
They established that the guy we know is working for Evil Coop gets that message, and then she gets it. And even then, I didn't put it together. Like, oh, they must be working together.
Oh, yeah, no, I think everybody's in cahoots here, because in the next episode, like, we see a picture of Evil Coop, like, next to, like, Buddha, next to the glass box.
Well, I didn't know, as far as the guy, if he was supposed to be important, but I think the implication of that scene is he funded that operation. So I think...
That's what I'm thinking.
He's trying to trap either Coop or that thing that came that wasn't Coop.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, because I think... We talked about, like, when the first couple episodes were like, well, what the fuck is Bob's plan? Like, it seems like he's just hiding out with hillbillies. But no, it does seem like Bob has a plan, and it's either to fucking not go back, or, I don't know, maybe bring fucking hell on earth. I don't know.
Well, okay, so we are clear that the thing that was in that box in the first episode that killed the 2 people is the same thing that vomited out Bob in episode 8, right?
Yeah.
So I assume that's like his mom, and he wants his mom back.
Oh, he's just looking for his mommy?
I mean, that's my interpretation, is that he wants, like, that's the greatest evil, and he wants to summon that, you know, And for whatever reason, it didn't work the first time. It didn't want to stay. I think it has to. Maybe there's some rule about how you lure it into this world that it didn't. Maybe I don't know if maybe that was like even like a ritual sacrifice sort of thing, and it wasn't good enough, or how that's going to pan out. But I think that's the idea: is he wants that entity.
But what? So now that we know like kind of more about the glass box, what the fuck is it? Can we figure that out yet?
Well, I mean, it's obviously a portal to the other side.
What do you do? Build it out of glass?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Because, I mean, obviously he would know more about the mechanics of how to cross back and forth than we would.
I guess that's true. He does know more about interdimensional construction.
And I would assume that for something like that creature, who is, I think, the closest thing to the devil in this world, it can't just be like lodge entities can kind of travel back and forth at will. I think that's probably like in some cage somewhere, so there's a special process to bring it out.
All right. So but then how does Coop fit into all this? So, all right. So now evil Coop either built or found this glass box, and then he's got this whole like fucking operation because all these people are working for him, hillbillies and the corporate guys, the guy from Mulholland Drive. And I guess Jim Belushi's tied to all of it too. So yeah, evil Coop is like the source of like all the evil in this show. Like everybody kind of connects to him. So he built this glass box, paid somebody to watch it. Was he watching for Coop or was he watching for the mother?
Well, the reason I think it's the mother is because if he's watching for Coop, then that whole scene is just like a backup plan. That's like, if Coop ever gets out, he'll probably come, like, it's almost like another Dougie Jones situation. Like, we'll redirect him to a place under my control, either in the body of Dougie Jones or in this box. But I feel like we already have that with Dougie Jones, and I feel like that makes that less interesting. I feel like it's just more interesting to me if whatever happened with Coop there was the accident. He had that portal open. He happened to go through that accidentally because he was trying to find any way out, and that was like he was pulled there. But it was really intended for that creature because otherwise, because that makes it important. I think as a story point.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And I bet you like evil Coop doesn't spend a lot of time thinking about good Coop. Or do you think he does? I mean, he sees him every time he looks in the mirror.
Well, I think he set up Dougie Coop. We find that out way back in '97. So he at least knew knowing the mechanics of how this works. He knew that he got. I don't know if 25 years was just like the limit, or if that's a specific time for a specific reason. But he knew that he would have to do this in order to stay free, so he at least thought about it that much. But beyond that, I don't think he factors much into his plan other than as a potential obstacle.
Right. All right. Okay, and then a couple more things happen in episode 9 before we move on to 10. This Matthew Lillard interrogation scene I thought was fan-friggin-tastic.
Oh, yeah, I fucking
Matthew
love him.
Lillard, he deserves a fucking Emmy for this. I don't think this got any Emmy love.
Retroactively?
Yeah, he needs a retroactive Emmy for this. We learned more about Matthew Lillard and this whole Ruth Davenport thing because he was having an affair with Ruth Davenport because they were working together on researching alternate dimensions, and so they got coordinates. They went to this site. They met Major Briggs. Major Briggs gave them coordinates, and I guess the coordinates were lost because Ruth wrote them on her hand.
Well,
maybe, or something. Well, because we don't know what happened to Ruth Davenport's body.
That's right.
So I guess that's what they did. Maybe they cut off the body to get the coordinates.
I was just gonna say that. I wonder because we were assuming that somebody, either Bob or somebody working for Bob, is the one who killed her. So he wanted the coordinates that Major Briggs was going to give to them or gave to them.
Right. So I think I'm piecing it together. So Matthew Lillard and Ruth Davenport went to this site. Major Briggs was there, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to give you these coordinates." And then a Bob minion showed up, and I guess they fucking cut off Ruth's head. I guess maybe Major Briggs was able to get his head back into the other dimension before it severed his head off and left his body in our world.
Well, what I'm my working assumption of that is his head was literally wedged between worlds at the time. I think what severed his head was whatever gateway he was in.
Right. So, like, what Matthew Lillard saw was just like a Major Briggs butt with no head, just like struggling, like looking like Winnie the Pooh getting his head stuck in the honey pot.
Yes, pretty much. And then it just decapitated itself.
Yeah. I believe that gives me flashbacks to our Ghost Dad podcast, where we questioned the mechanics of what happened to Bill Cosby's ass when he went through the phone.
But no, I think, like I said, the fact that we're able to even piece all this together, I feel like that's more than I ever had with the original Twin Peaks, or even Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah. It is. The pace was much better than it has been. And, like, I guess now we're officially, like, halfway through the series. So I would hope it starts fucking picking up about now. But like, the pace was much more quicker.
Remember the back half of season 2 before the finale? It was a fucking slog. I mean, if I do my rewatch, it's like, when do I stop? That's true. Do I watch the reveal of Leland Palmer and, like, I think, like, the next episode might be good, and then just watch the finale?
When I rewatch Twin Peaks, I watch all the episodes. I just fast forward through the trifle.
So the James subplot then.
Yeah, I watch the Wyndham Earl stuff.
Yeah, and I like Wyndham Earl, and I mean, I guess the Annie stuff is relevant because Annie does come back in Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah, I'll watch the Coop shit, but I won't watch the other shit that's not I ain't watching Billy Zane. Fuck that.
Oh, by the way, I was watching a YouTube video on that. Kind of interesting theory, because the big theory that apparently there's a reference to Billy. We got a reference to Billy. Somebody ran by the Double R Diner and said, "Hey, where's Billy?" So we're supposed to be asking that question.
That. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So
oh, and that's supposed to be Billy Zane?
Well, there's people that theorize, because apparently it comes up later, and it's in relation to Audrey, and so the theory is that it's Billy Zane. I know that much. But there's another theory that the guy who disappeared, who was talking to Andy, whose truck was stolen, that's Billy. The reason people are looking for him is because he disappeared, presumably because young Horn killed him.
Right. We get that information in episode 10. That fuck up Richard who killed that little kid must be Audrey Horn's son, because he calls Ben Horn's wife Grandma. Yeah,
and we've got another appearance of what's the other brother's name?
Johnny Horn.
Johnny Horn, who was very not in the show that much. He was introduced in like the first episode. He might have been in a couple episodes. I think I read somewhere that he's like mentally challenged and like dresses like an Indian in the original show.
Yeah.
And I read somewhere that he was going to be part of the mystery, like he was going to have some information about the death, because Laura Palmer like cared for him at some point, but he couldn't articulate it because of his mental condition, and that was going to be his story, but I guess they abandoned that at some point, so they just kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, he like disappears from the show, and then I think they bring him back in season 2 remember when Ben Horn thinks he's a Civil War general?
I didn't remember that until I started listening to another podcast that was doing a recap of the original series, and I got to that point, and I was like, oh, fuck, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That was so fucking dumb.
The second season of Twin Peaks kind of sucks. Oh, but I did want to, before we move on from Matthew Lillard, when he started talking about his plans with Ruth, and they're going to go to the Bahamas.
Oh, that was so good. Just because it's so real. It feels like a real person trapped in that situation who considers himself innocent, but is, has all the FBI bearing down on him, is just going to focus on that one thing that it's like, I was going to go to the Bahamas and it was going to be fun. And like, that's his happy place in this horrible situation.
Yeah. Well, and then I also like the disconnect between him and Tammy, where, they are really only concerned about Major Briggs and the weird shit, but he's, thinking that he's still on the hook for Ruth Davenport's murder, but like, so he keeps saying like, I didn't kill her, believe me, I loved her, and she's like, for all she knows, like, fuck, she doesn't give a shit.
And
she
I like
just wants to know the information about the other thing.
Because that's the thing. Her asking those questions would suggest that they obviously know that there's more to this than him potentially killing her. So, like, I think that would kind of perk him up a little bit. But yeah, he's so trapped in his own anxiety that he can't even see that.
Yeah, even when they start questioning him about, like, his alternate dimension theories, like, when the FBI is questioning you about your alternate dimension theories, that's when you're like, oh, this shit real.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, there's a thing about that. Because she asks him to point out Major Briggs on a photo and circle it and date it. And apparently, because of the messiness of how he writes the date, people thought there was, like, time travel involved because it, like, created an inconsistency. But it was because the 9 looked like a 0. So that must mean it's 9 days before. It's like, no, he just fucking wrote it wrong.
Yeah, I remember that theory floating around from when the show was on the air. We get this fucking hum in the Great Northern again. Is that Josie in the wood?
That's what I thought at first, but the more I think about that, I feel like I would have heard about it if they'd brought back Josie back as a weird hum. Because later on, the log lady says the electricity is humming. So I feel like that's more important. Whatever that is the same thing. And electricity is a big thing in the, it's a power source and it's part of the mysticism. So I feel like that, if that was Josie, I feel like that's a waste of a plot point.
Yeah. Well, no, Joan Chen does not come back. I don't know if they ever explained the hum or not.
Because I know she never came back,
because
she asked to come back and he didn't have any place for her. So.
Yeah, no, I can't remember if they ever decide what the hum is, but yeah, maybe it's part to do with the electricity and, like, something with, since Coop's key came back to the Great Northern, like, I feel like that's going to connect to something, right? Like, now Ben Horn has that key.
I would assume that key goes to that room. I'm guessing there's something supernatural left over in that room. Because remember, that's the same room where we first saw the giant. I'm waiting for a scene where he goes into that room, like he's following the hum, and it leads him to that room. He puts the key in that door. It still works, even though they've changed to fucking other keys. Right. And then he's walked into the White Lodge, and he, like, has a conversation with the giant. And that's how that connects.
Right. Maybe. All right. And then the last thing that happens in episode 9 is, it's episode 9. It's time to meet some more characters. Who's this fucking rashy lady?
Are you hating this? Because I'm actually kind of I'm digging these.
I don't know, man. This is what I hated about the show. It's just like, fucking, it's episode 9. What? Who's this rashy lady who just got fired from the burger joint?
Here's the thing. I don't think these are going to pay off or connect in any significant way to where, like we're going to, like, love it by the end. But I think it's going to be like, remember in The Simpsons when you saw all the McBain shorts, and then later on some asshole on the internet put them all together and realized they made a whole movie? I feel like you're going to be able to do that with all these scenes, and it's going to pay off in that way. Like, if you connected them all together, and independent of anything else, like, it's not going to be, like, relevant to the little man from another place or anything, but it'll be an interesting story in its own right.
Well, I asked you when we were watching the episode, because we get to the end of every episode and we usually, like, fast forward because we don't care about the song, but should we be paying attention to the going-ons in the Bang Bang Bar? Like, how important is this to everything else going along?
Well, I do know that there's been mention of sickness. Like, the girl, Ashley Judd's husband is sick. And there's just this general idea that it's her rash. I think that's kind of a thing where, like, something is spreading, and I think it's something supernatural that is then translated into just, like, people are getting sicker, and I think that's something. Oh.
So just the evil coming back into Twin Peaks is making people physically ill?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. As much as, and also spiritually ill. The fact that, like, their conversation is all about how just their lives are shit, and it's just inescapable, and they've just acquiesced to it. I think that's the nature of this world now, because the evil is won, and I think that's overbearing over all of this. Even Diane is evil.
That's true. Coop's evil.
Well, yeah.
Everybody's fucking evil. Except Andy and Lucy. They're just picking out chairs.
Coop was the ultimate source of good. He was this sort of unassailable good character. So when he was corrupted, when evil Coop took him over, or, took his body and left the lodge, or I guess I think we go back and forth on that, or whether he was the doppelganger that left and left Coop behind, or if he's literally in Coop's body or not. But the fact that he became the Coop in this world means that something is wrong, and that's reflected in other places.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so episode 10. Let's move on to this one. This one had some good shit, but again, yeah, episode 9 was really holding my interest more.
Well, episode 10 feels like when we talked about like the odd number episodes. Even though they didn't seem like as much was going on, they always seemed like set up for the next episode. Like it was enough that like, oh, I can see that they're going for something, and then that would pay off in the even number episode. This feels like a setup for episode 11.
That is true, because yeah, a lot of it is just this Tom Sizemore, Jim Belushi thing, which I was just kind of bored by. But before we get too far into that, oh man, Richard Horn beating the shit out of this lady.
The all the Richard Horn stuff in this episode. I mean, I liked it. It's horrifying to watch, and he's so good. That I want to see that actor in it. Something else, man. That guy's great. Yeah, he's just so good at playing this evil fucking character, and every moment he's on screen, I'm interested in where that's gonna go. Especially now that I know that he's related to a main character we still haven't seen yet.
Yeah, and this kind of has like a through line through the episode. So let's talk about everything Richard Horn does. So he hit a kid, and he knows there's a witness and we saw her. So he goes to her trailer, I guess murders her. I don't know if we ever see confirmation of that, but she looks pretty murdered.
Oh, I am assuming she's murdered.
Yeah, but she also wrote a letter to the sheriff. So Richard calls our good buddy Chad to intercept the letter at the post office, which resulted in a fun scene where the mailman is like, should I trust this guy with the mail I just delivered to him?
He's literally wearing a sheriff's uniform, but he still seems sketchy.
I know. I wrote down in my notes, I love Chad.
Oh, no, I mean, the fact that he's, like, overtly evil rather than just a dick feels like, I mean, I don't know, I would rather he just be, like, an asshole. The fact that he's literally involved in a conspiracy, I don't know, I'm not necessarily as interested in that, but...
Oh, if he was just kind of like a red herring the whole time?
I
wish he was the bad guy.
I wish he was just like a fucking dick.
But he's just a fucking piece of shit guy.
Yeah.
Nah, he's evil. He's in on all the goings-ons and the drug deals. Oh, yeah, and then I didn't like the scene that followed that with Amanda Seyfried. I liked Harry Dean Stanton singing us a song, but yeah, this, like, it's all like Leo and Shelley stuff with Amanda Seyfried now being, like, brutally tortured by her boyfriend.
Yeah, you mentioned that as we watched it, the Leo comparison, and apparently they confirm in one of the books that Leo he's just dead. Because I guess he was like in a precarious situation at the end of season 2, like Wyndham Earle strung him up to something. But yeah, I guess I don't need another Leo and Shelley. We have enough darkness. Do I need Amanda Seyfried? Amanda Seyfried's cute, and I think she's a good actress, and she, I like her on screen. I don't want to see her getting beaten up by her boyfriend.
Yeah, and then
I've seen Lovelace. I got enough of that there.
And yeah, I remember not liking this whole storyline with them too. Like, they go on an adventure or something. It might connect to the main plot, but I can't remember if it does. We also get a lot of Candy in this episode.
I like
What
Candy.
are your thoughts on Candy?
I like Candy.
I like Candy too.
That's another thing where it's like my super analytical, dumb Twin Peaks fan brain is going to be like, there's something, the way she's acting, kind of inhuman and like half in the world and half not psychologically. Like, that's gonna turn out to be something. Like, I'm waiting for, like, characters to be secretly lodge entities and, like, gonna be revealed that way. Like, we've been guiding things this whole time. Like, I was thinking that with, like, the Spike. Like, he was gonna be an incarnation of the little man from another place. You know, I'm waiting for shit like that, and I don't think it's actually gonna come. I feel like I'm just reading into it.
No, because just some people are just weird in this show. I mean, if you're going to say Candy's a lodge entity, then what the fuck's up with Andy and Lucy? They got a son who acts like Marlon Brando. They up to something.
Oh, we forgot to mention the Photoshop picture on the desk.
Oh, yeah, that's classic. Behind Lucy, there's just like the most awkwardly photoshopped picture of Andy, Lucy, and like Michael Cera's head on a young child. Like Love Guru style.
Oh, man. And you say he never comes back, right?
I don't believe so.
Because, yeah, I mean, I didn't... Not that I don't necessarily dislike Michael Cera. I think I joked that I hated him, but I just, I don't know if I want that character to come back and be a main character, or I never want to see him again.
I know. What was that? Like, that's one, like, after we're done watching this show, like, we need to just, like, wrap up our series with, like, okay, was Wally Brando necessary for all of this? Was this necessary? And then see, like, how much we can cut easily from this show. But then again, if we lost Wally Brando, I wouldn't have Wally Brando.
Well, that's because, and I think I mentioned that in previous podcasts. Maybe it's the one where you tried to fake your side of the conversation. But, like, the fact that there was originally a negotiation because they didn't want to give him the budget, and I suspect that part of that was, like, he pitched him this, and they were like, well, can't you do it in 12 episodes? And he was like, no, I need 18, because I need Wally Brando.
And they're like, well, we can't argue with that.
So, like, I wonder if a lot of the sticking points were, like, these kind of scenes where, like, you let things breathe. There's a famous clip I keep seeing on YouTube and, like, videos of him complaining that he's not been given enough time to play and to dream. And it's like, I feel like you had enough fucking time.
Yeah. There's plenty in here. Episode 10 does give me... this might be... It's probably going to be in my top 5 favorite moments of this series. When Janie E. and Dougie finally fuck.
Okay, here's my thing with this. I was uncomfortable by this scene because I keep seeing Dougie Jones as kind of mentally challenged. It'd be like if Johnny Horn got to fuck in this show. Like, no, that's not good.
But what's wrong with Janie E, though? Like, not just, like, she's totally cool with just, like, you know, doing every single thing for this man. But she's been married to him practically before this, right? Like, what was her relationship with Dougie Jones before Coop was in the body?
Well, that's the other thing. You wonder what... Because Dougie Jones was created in 1997, and prior to being replaced by Coop... We got some sense of his personality. He was a creep. He was cheating on his wife. He was a gambling guy. But, like, how much of a personality he really had. What little we saw of him talking to Philip Gerard in the Black Lodge, he didn't seem like he had that much of a personality. He was just kind of taciturn and weird. So I don't know how much of this Dougie Jones is actually all that different from the Dougie Jones she knows. Let's not try to just pretend that nothing just happened there. I lost internet connection, so there's going to be a part here where we were talking about Dougie Jones fucking a lady, and then we're just talking about this now.
Oh no, I was just gonna let's pick it up at Dougie Jones fucking.
Well, I was just talking about how I felt like it's like a mentally challenged person getting raped, and it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, but my question to you was, before you lost internet connection, what do you think their relationship was like before? I mean, we saw a glimpse of Dougie before Coop took over, but, like, something's got to be wrong with Janie E, too, right?
Well, my point, which I made when I didn't know my internet connection had gone out, was I don't feel like the Dougie that was before Coop was that much different from the Dougie we see now. Certainly more communicative, but what we saw of him, he didn't seem to have much of a personality. I think true. Because he doesn't need to have one, because he's just a construct of Bob. So
that's also true.
He's the bare minimum of a person that needed to be able to exist.
Right. So, wait a minute. Here's a question that I don't think is brought up in the show, but something that just popped up in my head. What the fuck does that make Sonny Jim?
Well, okay. Are we 1997? Well, I guess, because I'm just saying, is he Dougie's kid, or is he a child from a previous relationship?
Oh.
Because if he is Dougie's kid, then... Well, you mentioned that, too. We were talking about this over chat the other day, and you said you'd seen stuff that they'd filmed certain scenes with Sonny Jim backwards?
Oh, yeah, that was a theory at the time, because there was something with the thumbs up that he gave Dougie Coop in, like, the 4th episode, where, like, it looked like it was played backwards or something like that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I'm saying if that's the case, because we were talking about the 119 girl, maybe she's speaking backwards, 911. I also thought, and I didn't mention this in the podcast, I didn't realize until after, there was a theory that the reason Mr. C, Bob, speaks in such halting dialogue is because he's struggling to speak normally. Like, his natural way is to speak backwards, so he has to very carefully speak so that he speaks forwards. And they see that in the interrogation scene, he says, very, very good to meet you, but he says, yreV, very good to meet you. So, like, he slips up.
I see.
So maybe,
but,
like,
are they really talking...
Sonny Jim moves backwards a little bit.
Right. Well, are they really talking backwards? Because they're not talking backwards. They're talking forwards. We're just hearing them weird. We only know that the reason why they talk weird is because David Lynch films the scene backwards and plays it in forwards. Or
well,
they film it backwards and he plays it in reverse.
Well, whatever it is within the context of the actual story, that mode of speech is meant to be, like, they speak differently if they're native to that place. You know, so that's, whatever that is, it carries over to the other side, you know.
Oh, okay. You're just calling it backwards talking because that's what everybody calls it.
Yeah.
I thought you meant, like, literally they speak backwards.
No, I mean, whatever that is, it's obviously some otherworldly way of speaking that, you know, maybe I guess, but that being said, the giant speaks normally when he's in the real world, I think, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't speak backwards.
Yeah. No.
He only speaks, but he does
Senior
speak...
Drool Cup speaks normal. I mean, he speaks in, like, riddles, but no, he talks normally.
So, yeah, I mean, So, I mean, maybe that's off base, but I like that as the idea that that's why he has to talk the way he does.
Or does he? No, I mean, because when we see the giant in the first episode, he's talking backwards. But that's because he's in wherever he is. But yeah, when we see him in the series, he's in the real world, and he is talking, like, very slowly, kind of like Evil Coop does. So yeah, that kind of tracks.
Yeah. So I don't. Yeah, but that's kind of the idea. But and I really like the idea that Sonny Jim is some kind of weird human tulpa hybrid.
He's gotta be. What the fuck is he?
Well, the only other explanation is he's
not
from
a
a previous
person.
marriage.
Maybe, but if that's Dougie's kid, like, what? Dougie is now a little gold ball in Mike's pocket. That's got a kid just walking around.
Well, of course, at the same time, we don't really understand, and I doubt we will ever know quite what a tulpa is, mechanically speaking. Are they otherwise indistinguishable from people? You know, because...
Yeah. So, like, they have people jizz?
I mean, because he's, other than the fact that he's manufactured, we don't get any other indication that he's anything other than a person, so maybe he just works just like a person.
I guess, yeah, he would be, like, biologically correct, I suppose. I only got 4 more big things that happened in episode 10 that we haven't talked about. Well, not big things, because one of my things is Nadine now runs a drape store called Run Silent, Run Drapes. So, I guess we get some closure on Nadine.
And she hung up the gold shovel in the window.
Yeah, she has Dr. Jacoby's gold shovel in the window. Yeah, I can't remember if that goes anywhere, but... Yeah, Nadine seems to be obsessed with Dr. Jacoby's, like, fucking YouTube rants. And she, like, watches him, like, she's always, like, eating popcorn or, like, drinking a shake. Like, she's making her day, like, around these Dr. Jacoby videos.
Yeah, we talked about that. Dr. Jacoby is basically the Alex Jones of this world now. And, I mean, I assume that does come to something. I don't know what it will come to, but, I mean, that's not going to be random.
No, I don't think so. And then, we got it. What the fuck was up with, okay, so Gordon Cole is just chilling in his hotel. And then he's like, I'm just doodling. He hears a knock on the door. He opens up the door, and he's just watching footage of Twin Peaks of Laura Palmer.
Well, yeah, I don't know what it's supposed to be. I'm assuming that's probably from Fire Walk With Me, that whatever that scene was.
I think that scene was... I think it's from the show. I think it's when she's talking to that, like, shut-in guy.
Oh, maybe.
She's like, maybe it's from Fire Walk With Me. It might be. But it's
doesn't he come back in the movie,
it's
too?
It's footage of... yeah. Oh, yeah, so maybe it is from the movie. But, yeah, so he sees just, like, a flashback of Laura Palmer, I guess. And then it fades away, and it's just Albert, and he's like, oh, hey, come on in, Albert. Well, yeah. What the fuck was that?
That's the thing. I don't know. Are we just supposed to take from that this is an indication that he's getting close because he's pierced the veil and that's because Laura Palmer is still an active agent in all this. She's still in the Red Room. She was in the beginning.
So.
And we've now seen that she's some kind of avatar of goodness to fight the evil in the last episode.
Well, and that's the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Log Lady's message. I didn't write the whole message down, but it ends with Laura is the one. So obviously something's up.
Well, yeah, because she was in the first episode, and she mysteriously disappeared, and then we found out that she was this glowing ball, and I don't know if there's a connection between those glowing balls and the glowing ball of, Dougie Jones, and, like, the fact that, obviously the gold ball seemed to be the good side, and then the black ball seemed to be the bad side, but beyond that, we don't really have much. I don't know, again, how much more we would need or are going to get.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, David Lynch has always said that, Twin Peaks revolves around Laura Palmer. And it does, because, even after they solve her murder, like, every episode ends with her fucking picture over the credits. So it's all about her, but I don't know how, why, or who. But it's all connecting somehow. Well,
the establishment of her and that glowing ball, which, just to me, I'm just reading the visual language of that is, Bob was this great evil that was brought to the earth in the bomb. So the fireman, who's obviously controlling the fire of Bob is always represented by fire. So Laura is the counter agent to that. Laura's, on a spiritual level, has always been that. And that, I don't know where the death goes in there. Because I've seen theories where, like, obviously he didn't want to kill her, he wanted to possess her. When she put on the ring in Fire Walk With Me, for some reason that meant he couldn't possess her, so he had to kill her. That maybe her death was some kind of sacrifice that would ultimately lead to his defeat. Like, that was sort of the plan. Like, she had to die in order to engineer, based on the rules of this world, Bob losing. And so this is sort of part of that. So, like, that maybe there's something to that. And the fact that she's still alive in a very real sense in the Red Room, I assume that's all going to come back, and she's going to be in the finale as well.
Yeah, no, she definitely comes back. But yeah, so maybe it's like, yeah, if Bob, who's I guess like the source of all evil, possesses Laura, the source of all good, like, what the fuck happened? So yeah, I guess she just had to die. I guess in I guess our dimension, but she must still live on in others.
And I'm building on my theory about the mother and all that stuff. Which I guess was credited as the experiment in that episode. I didn't see that, but I saw that online somewhere. Maybe that was like, that was the initial plan. Like, you defile that ultimate source of good, that brings the mother back, But that failed, so now he has all these other plans.
Right. Isn't it weird? Let's end on this note. Isn't it weird that this is like the first time we're really talking about the show, like, as almost like it's like a Law and Order thing, and we're like actually trying to piece it together. Like, up until now, we're like, oh, it's metaphorical to this, and it's David Lynch saying this, and this one we're like, no, it's just a fucking mystery, and we'll figure it out.
Well,
and the last episode we watched was we saw a nuclear bomb from the inside for 10 minutes. But now, all of a sudden, we're like, this all makes sense.
Well, it's like, I keep bringing up Lost, because, Lost was very much inspired by Twin Peaks, but it was like Twin Peaks, but people could understand it and figure it out. And, by the end, you got all the answers you needed. I feel like you did anyway. A lot of people don't believe that, but with Twin Peaks, you never thought you would get there. But I feel like this is Twin Peaks in the wake of stuff like Lost, where, like, no, you can get there. You can piece this all together. And I'm wondering if by the end we're going to get to a point where it's like, the symbolism is interesting and it's nice, but you won't need any of that to understand the show.
Right. Maybe nothing is symbolic. Maybe it's just, it's just the shit that happens. And it's pretty straightforward. Because a lot of our questions that we have been resolved, and they're pretty just straightforward answers, It's like, it's not really too complicated when the mystery's solved. You're like, oh yeah, all right, that makes sense. A to B equals C.
Well, I mean, and again, talking about the thing that I said I would stop talking about, that guy, his theory is that it's all a TV show within a TV show and self-aware and all that, and like a meta-commentary on TV. I see enough of that I can't deny that. I think that's there, at least on the level of, like, you know, he definitely wanted to say something about television with his TV show. And, you know, so much of it is about that. But I don't think that connects as much as he says it does, where, like, the symbolism is literally, like, metatextual and within it, and even the stuff where, like, maybe they know their TV characters, like, I'm beginning to question that even. I feel like it's just more straightforward than that.
Yeah, I mean, the final episode is a mindfuck, but, yeah, as I'm watching it now, it's just like, it's a pretty straightforward story. And I mean, we're never going to understand, like, the differences between the timelines of the Lodge, because then we'd have to understand interdimensional travel, and we never will. But we can kind of put it in layman's terms. That's a dimension. This is a dimension. We don't fully understand that dimension because we don't live in it, but it's weird.
Well, and some of it was already there, like, and I didn't know this at the time. I found this out recently. Do you know what firewalking is?
No.
Apparently, firewalking is like a Native American thing about, like, traveling between dream worlds. So the idea of fire walk with me, it's literally been a part of it the whole time. It's since the very beginning that you know, the tattoo, like, that's been that's what it's all been about. Traveling between different worlds, where one world is a dream to the other world, and maybe even vice versa.
Right. And where were we first introduced to the Red Room?
Well,
in Coop's dream.
Technically not. It was in the pilot, in the thing they filmed to attach to it to make it a feature-length film, which I believe in that context was not a dream.
Well, yeah, but you can't canonize that.
No, because I mean they incorporated it in, so.
Yeah, but that's before the show. He never intended that. I mean, once the show started, I don't think that ending applies.
Well, because
it doesn't make sense, because if you're watching that as the first episode and then you watch the second episode, they're like, who killed Laura Palmer? Wait, didn't you figure it out in the first fucking episode? So yeah, you can't take the European pilot as canon.
And I haven't read too far into these theories because, again, I didn't want to be spoiled, and I assumed that these would spoil the end. But I have read that there is a alternate timeline theory as well. That there are multiple timelines at work in the show. So maybe that's a different timeline, you know?
That's true, too. Yeah, maybe, you know, we're seeing this all together because it's just edited this way, but, like, we're cutting in between different dimensions. Like, maybe the Bang Bang Bar is a whole nother plane of existence. Otherwise, why wouldn't it just be the Roadhouse? The Roadhouse exists in this universe. Jacques Renault's brother works there. He said he works in the Roadhouse. So why are we in the Bang Bang Bar?
And I'm pretty sure that character died in the original, didn't he?
Right. But our first theory was like, oh, the Bang Bang Bar, maybe it changed ownership. That's not the case. So if David Lynch just wanted to have each episode end with a song, why is it in the Bang Bang Bar? Why isn't it just in the Roadhouse?
So yeah,
Or why is the Roadhouse, we go to the Roadhouse and he's just sweeping up peanuts for 10 minutes. We cut to the Bang Bang Bar and they got a musical guest every night.
And in that thing I was watching that was talking about the time discrepancy and the theory people had, they do mention that I think the Gordon Cole stuff is not necessarily happening in parallel with the Twin Peaks investigation. Like, those aren't necessarily happening side by side, even though we're seeing them that way.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's a good theory, too. Well, no, I don't know, because, I guess we'll figure that out when we get to the ending, because...
I assume they will converge, yeah.
Now that I think of it, they converge, so that kind of doesn't make sense, but... all right, well, anyway, that's all I got for episodes 9 and 10.
Yeah, that's all I have. And I think I'm good. Though, still looking forward to continuing on with this. Again, this episode wasn't quite as fun as the last one, and obviously, I don't think anything's going to hold up to 8, but I'm still very intrigued going forward.
I don't know. I was digging episode 9 more than episode 8. Episode 10 was kind of chill, but yeah, nothing, like, I didn't hate watching it. I was just kind of like, there were some parts where I was more bored than others.
I don't know. Well, making the connections, it came to me that creature that spit out Bob, which was the same as the beginning, and that he was found, that scene where they show that basically funded that box operation. That's it. That's it for me. That's got to be the main thing. And so that part of 8 is very much sticking with me now. Like that's what I'm going to be watching for. You know, where the fuck that goes.
Yeah, we're getting the kind of like the origins of Bob, and we're kind of trying. It's almost like we're kind of piecing together what he's up to too. So no, I'm excited for the show. I'm digging it. So yeah, next week episodes 11 and 12. Until we see you again, get off the shed.